always so interesting when people ask me, how did I get started in sex coaching? And, I've been working in the field as a sexuality educator and a counselor and a sex coach for a long time, over 35 years. And I got started because I was a leader working in these sexual health organizations. I was the Associate Director of Education at National Planned Parenthood for 7 years during the 1980s. And then I got this phone call and I moved to California to get the job of my dreams, so to speak, working at ETR Associates, where I ran the first national governmentally funded HIV/AIDS prevention program, training school teachers around the country in how to stop the spread of HIV among school-based youth. And I also then moved back to New York City and I worked at SIECUS, the world's leading sexuality education organization. And I had this amazing job. I was so fortunate to be able to be the staff person who released the comprehensive sex ed guidelines to the world. And I got to do more trainings and travel and write curricula and articles, and it was just an amazing experience for me. But what happened is that way back then in the early 1990s, in 1993, I finished my doctoral studies where I was trained in sexology, the study of human sexual behavior and its impact on people's lives and what they think and feel, and even on the relationship between self and others. And I was just feeling like, what I learned in school and my doctoral training was fantastic and life-altering. But even though I was trained as a sexuality educator and as a sex therapist in sexology, I felt like it just wasn't fitting for me. And at that same time, in the early 1990s, I was privileged to discover this amazing visionary called Thomas Leonard, who founded CoachU.com. CoachU was like the go-to place for establishing the new profession of coaching as a life coach, as a personal coach, and of course now we have a million derivatives of that coaching. But Thomas Leonard was really the groundbreaker, and I had the joy of being in a coaching group. I had a coaching buddy, and Thomas Leonard was someone that I studied, and I studied from. And I had the privilege of going to workshops and really beginning to hone in on this new phenomenon called coaching. And I thought, I've studied sexology. I have a doctorate in human sexuality. I'm trained as a sexologist, as a sex therapist, as a sexuality educator and counselor, but it didn't click for me. And then one day, someone asked me, would I come and give a talk about how I work with clients and their sexual issues and concerns? And this was in 1993, just after I had finished and earning my doctorate. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to say? So I went deep within myself, and out of that contemplation and that self-assessment and that looking back and deeply into what I knew and where my training came from and where my passion was really growing in this thing called coaching, I decided I was going to marry tried and true sex therapy techniques and strategies and methodologies with this burgeoning new way of approaching being with a client and being with life itself called coaching. So I married sex therapy and clinical sexology with life and personal coaching. And that's how sex coaching really was born. And that first workshop that I gave really was the first time in the world in early 1993 when the MEBS model, my unique model that really forms the basis for all the training at Sex Coach U, came into the world. And integrating the mind, the emotions, the body, the physical self, and energy and spirit, that holistic, whole person-centered model that approaches sexuality as 5 elements that really have to be in flow and open, within the self and then between two people, really became the paradigm shift for me as a sexologist, allowing me to bring forward into the world this new thing called sex coaching.